Hey everyone, I'm Olivia. I'm 17, a high school senior living in this typical suburban town. Sounds pretty normal, right? Well, things aren't always as they seem. I live with my parents, John and Linda, and my older brother, Mark. He's 19, and let's just say we don't exactly get along. See, cycling is my passion. It's my escape, and I've been training hard for an upcoming local competition. I'm actually pretty good at it, if I do say so myself. But Mark? He hates it. Every time I hit a new personal best or when our parents cheer me on, I can practically see the jealousy eating him alive. Great job on your training today, Olivia, Mom said one evening after dinner. Thanks, Mom. I shaved another 30 seconds off my route. I noticed Mark rolling his eyes from across the room. Big deal. It's just riding a bike, he muttered under his breath. Dad stepped in, trying to smooth things over. Now, Mark, your sisters worked hard. We should all be proud. Whatever, Mark grumbled, storming off to his room. My best friend Emily gets it though. We were hanging out in my room later that night, and I vented about Mark's attitude. He's just jealous, Liv, Emily said, flipping through a magazine. You're actually doing something with your life. I guess. I just wish he'd grow up already, you know. At least I have my cycling coach, Mr. Thompson, to lean on. During training, he always pushed me to be better. You've got real talent, Olivia, he told me after a grueling practice. Keep this up and you could go far. But things at home were only getting worse. One night, I overheard my parents whispering. John, we need to do something about Mark and Olivia, Mom said. They're just being siblings, Linda. It'll blow over, Dad replied. I wanted to scream. This wasn't normal sibling rivalry, it felt like something more. The next morning, I headed to the garage for my usual preschool training session. I was pumped knowing I had an important practice later, but as I reached for my bike, something felt wrong. I knelt down to check, and my heart sank. The brake lines had been cut. I stood there frozen, staring at the clean slice. This wasn't an accident. Someone had done this on purpose, and I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly who. As I heard footsteps approaching the garage, I straightened up, my mind racing. How was I going to handle this? And more importantly, who could I trust? I found Mark in the kitchen, acting like nothing had happened. Did you cut my brake lines? I asked, my voice shaking. He looked at me like I was insane. What? No way. Why would I do that? Because you're jealous, I snapped. You can't stand that I'm good at something. Our parents rushed in, hearing the commotion. I explained about the brake lines, but they didn't seem to understand the seriousness of it. Honey, are you sure it wasn't just wear and tear? Mom suggested. Yeah, Olivia. Stop being so dramatic, Mark smirked. I felt like I was losing my mind. No one believed me. Later that day, I met up with Emily at our favorite coffee shop. I don't know what to do, Em. They think I'm overreacting, I said, exasperated. That's messed up, Liv. You need to be careful, she warned, and I nodded, feeling just a little less alone. At my next practice, I confided in Mr. Thompson. Olivia, this is serious. Don't take any chances with your safety, he said. Taking his advice, I started using my backup bike for training. But I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. A few days later, I overheard Mark on the phone in his room. He sounded stressed. Drake, I swear I'll get you the money. No, you don't understand. I can't ask my parents. Money troubles? Was that why he'd been acting so weird? Things took an even scarier turn during my next practice run. I was flying down a hill when suddenly my gears jammed. I barely managed to stop without crashing. When I inspected the bike, I found metal shavings in the gears. This wasn't an accident. That night, I made a decision. I set up a small camera in the garage, hidden behind some old paint cans. Days went by, and nothing happened. I started to think maybe I was being paranoid. But then, one afternoon as I reviewed the footage, my blood ran cold. There was Mark, clear as day, tampering with my bike. He was messing with the water bottle, likely putting something in it, something dangerous. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. This was it. No more doubts, no more second chances. 911. What's your emergency? I need help, I stammered. My brother has been sabotaging my bike. I have video evidence. As I waited for the police, a wave of emotions hit me. Relief that I wasn't imagining things, anger at Mark's betrayal, Fear of what could have happened if I hadn't caught him. But more than anything, I felt a steely resolve. No one was going to hurt me anymore. Not even family. The police arrived faster than I expected. I led them to the garage, my heart pounding. "This way, officers. I have it all on video." We watched the footage together, and I could see the shock on their faces. One officer turned to me, his voice serious. "Mom, this is no joke. We'll need to question your brother." Just then, my parents burst in, their faces stricken with panic. "What's going on here?" Dad demanded. Mom's eyes widened when she saw the police. "Olivia, what have you done?" I couldn't believe it. Even now, they were defending Mark. "What I've done? Look at what he did," I shouted, pointing at the screen. Dad tried to intervene. "Officers, there's been a misunderstanding. Our daughter is overreacting." Overreacting? My anger boiled over. "He could have killed me," I yelled. The police remained firm, despite their discomfort. "Sir, we have to investigate this." As they led Mark away for questioning, he shot me a venomous glare. "You'll regret this, Olivia." The next few days were a blur of frustration and heartache. My parents kept begging me to drop the charges. "He's your brother, Olivia. Family sticks together," Mom pleaded. I looked at her, my voice cold. Family doesn't try to hurt each other. I couldn't take it anymore. I called my Aunt Karen, my mom's sister. "Aunt Karen, I don't know what to do. No one believes me." Her voice was warm and soothing on the other end. "Oh, honey, you can stay with me if you need to." That night, I packed a bag, ignoring my parents' desperate protests. As I was leaving, Dad made one last attempt. "Olivia, please, think about what this will do to our family." I turned to face them, tears stinging my eyes. "You should have thought about that before choosing Mark over me." At Aunt Karen's house, I finally felt safe, but the emotional toll was heavy. Most nights, I cried myself to sleep, trying to wrap my mind around how my family could betray me like this. A week later, the real shock came. The police uncovered Mark's involvement in a local drug ring. He owed money to some guy named Drake and was desperate to pay it back. Aunt Karen sat me down gently. "The police think he was sabotaging your cycling to distract your parents or maybe even planning to sell your bikes. He might have even hoped for an accident to cash in on insurance." It all made sense. The late-night phone calls, his erratic behavior. But knowing the truth didn't make the betrayal hurt any less. As I sat on Aunt Karen's porch that evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I had a realization. This wasn't just about Mark anymore. It was about me, choosing myself, my safety, my future. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. "You okay, sweetie?" Aunt Karen asked, joining me on the porch. I nodded slowly. "I will be. I'm just done letting them hurt me." She squeezed my hand. "You're stronger than you know, Olivia, and I'll be here for you every step of the way." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight lifting off my shoulders. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face it, on my own terms. It's been 6 months since I moved in with Aunt Karen, and so much has changed. I've thrown myself into cycling and school, using them as anchors in the emotional storm I've been navigating. "Olivia, you've qualified for nationals," Mr. Thompson announced one day during practice. My teammates erupted in cheers, and for the first time in a long while. That evening, I felt pure, unadulterated joy as Aunt Karen, and I celebrated over bowls of ice cream. "I'm so proud of you, honey. You've come so far," she said, her voice full of warmth. I nodded, emotions swirling inside me. "I couldn't have done it without you, Aunt Karen." The next day, I got a call from Mom. Mark had been sentenced to 3 years for drug charges and attempted harm. As much as I felt a strange sense of relief, there was also sadness for what could have been. "Olivia, your father and I, we're so sorry. We should have believed you," Mom said, her voice cracking with regret. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I appreciate that, Mom, but I need time. I can't just pretend like nothing happened." Setting boundaries was hard, but necessary. I threw myself into my training and started mentoring younger cyclists, sharing my story in hopes that others could recognize and escape toxic situations before it was too late. One day after practice, a young girl named Zoe approached me. "Your story, it helped me stand up to my bullying cousin." "Thank you. Moments like these made everything worth it." As the national championship approached, I poured all my energy into preparation. On the day of the race, I stood at the starting line, my heart pounding. On your marks. As I pedaled, flashes of the past months played in my mind. The cup break lines, the betrayal, the nights I cried myself to sleep. But I also thought about the strength I'd found, the people who stood by me, and the lives I'd touched. I didn't win the race, but I beat my personal best by a mile. Crossing the finish line, I felt like I was flying. You did it, Olivia. Emily screamed from the sidelines, waving wildly. Mr. Thompson gave me a proud nod. That's my star pupil. Later, as the adrenaline faded, Aunt Karen handed me an envelope. This came for you today. Inside was a letter offering me a full cycling scholarship to State University. I could hardly believe it. I did it. I really did it, I whispered, tears welling up in my eyes. That night, as I lay in bed, I reflected on my journey. The pain was still there, a dull ache in my chest, but it no longer defined me. I thought about Mark, about my parents. I hoped they were healing too, in their own way, but I knew now that I couldn't set myself on fire to keep others warm. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt at peace. Tomorrow was a new day, full of possibilities, and I was ready to face it head-on, pedaling toward my future with strength, resilience, and hope. My name is Olivia, and this is my story of survival, of rising from the ashes. Remember, no matter how dark things seem, there's always a way forward. You just have to be brave enough to take that first step. What would you have done in Olivia's position? Would you have pressed charges against your own brother, or tried to handle it within the family?